Hi, I'm Ian Taylor.
And I'm Norrin Rad.
Well, we did it, buddy. This will be our 50th episode.
And wait until you hear who our guest is this week.
The amazing and unforgettable Julie Bell and Boris Vallejo.
Yes, we are talking about their work on the 1996 Marvel Masterpiece set.
So sit back and enjoy the show, and remember to catch the entire audio episode on our podcast channel, which you can find by Googling at the MCC Pod or clicking on the links below. Norrin, you ready?
Just hold on. Let me get this out of the top loader and ready.
Oh, Norrin.
What? What did I do? We've spoken to other artists, Dave DeVries, Simone Bianchi, other sketch card artists, and other people who've worked on these massive sets as well. And the continuous factor of why they are so great is because they've put in real personality into them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's really mirrored reflections. Really beautiful, wonderful stuff.
Communication is really part of the drive, and it's really, I don't know. Both of us have had a lot of different experiences in our lives that have been fairly parallel, even though we come from very different worlds and we're different ages and everything. But it's interesting that for both of us, the whole concept of empowerment of someone is very important to each one of us, and I think that that's a lot of what's that feeling that you're describing, that we want to communicate to other people. We want to give that, yes. If I could give anything out to the. So yeah, and I definitely see that in the work of, Dave DeVries and Simone Bianchi, and that, it's like, it really, that whole thing of communicating, like my personal wish for everybody, is just a wonderful aspect of being an artist. It's very fulfilling when I see it happening.
And the art is not just a job. It's not just a commission that we get. It's who we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's what we come up. It's part of us that comes out with it. And it means that much to us.
Yeah.
It's interesting because one thing that you mentioned there, Norrin, is when you go back and you look at pieces. When we were both doing our homework for talking to you today, I think we've both got a copy of this.
God, I love that book.
Right.
Which I only got this last year, although I've had the card set for longer. And what I loved about looking through here is that I saw a lot of the pieces in a larger format. I saw them without the overlay of the title or the logos that were on the final cards, and actually it was. And it's the same with movies. The movie Scarface, for example, when I first saw it, I didn't like it, but then I saw it about 10 years later, and I absolutely loved it, and it kind of clicked. And it's about, when you mentioned earlier about going back to a photo that you might have had for 20 years, and you look at it, and now it kind of clicks, and it starts a journey for you. It's a similar thing with, I guess, with any viewer of anything. It's like when I'm looking at some of these pieces in here, I see a different story in them now, or I see more of the story that maybe was intended, or maybe it's something I'm projecting onto it. I don't know, but and as a result, I made copious notes about some of the works on here, which I'm really not going to be able to go through. But yeah,
it makes me happy that it would touch you that way, and that you would like see your own life's journey in whatever art you're seeing in that or any other art. I mean, that's really. It's just it's a wonderful thing to be able to have and to be part of that, so.
Yeah, we appreciate it. I mean, I remember, everyone takes for granted now, but there's tons of superhero stuff. You go to a Barnes & Noble and you can see every superhero. You can have rows and rows of superhero things. But when I was younger and looking for superhero stuff, it wasn't only the comics and sequential art, which I'm a huge fan of sequential art. But when I would go and look for Marvel things or things with superheroes, or things that a younger kid would enjoy, and seeing these stories and levels of empathy and are just good characters, I would come across Titans, and all of a sudden I'm looking at these pieces, and it's this impact, right? It's this really big, beautiful impact. And I think what's really cool in terms of card series is that there's an insert set in the 1996 Marvel Masterpiece that you both worked on called the Double Impact set. And those cards don't have the font or the logo on them.
That's right.
they are, you know, really sought out by collectors, and they're probably some of the most expensive pieces and sought out pieces in all of our hobby. They're kind of like a benchmark. You know, they're basically considered
I have
grails.
been here.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Yes. So they're basically grail pieces for us. And I think the reason they are that way is because there is nothing, just like the rest of the set, nothing's inhibiting the art, right?
Yeah.
It's in a smaller format. And I think there's also like a tangible thing that happens with card art. At least, you know, just to give you our perspective on that, because your pieces, you work on such big formats, and I can, you know, only certain people get to have that kind of impact with an original piece, especially at scale, right?
Yeah.
But for everyone to have like that tangible thing where you're like, oh my gosh, look, I get to enjoy this now in my my quiet little collector's corner. Um, I think what's really fascinating about the set you worked on is that because that artwork demanded so much of that frame and so much of that space, not having anything inhibit that art was really monumental to the success of the set, I think.
It's, you know, because we are artists. We don't do art as a job.
Right.
It's who we are, and we put it into what we do. And so what people see, you know, of our paintings is just much, much more than a job.
Yeah.
It's actually really part of who we are, a big part of who we are.
It's interesting. When I was looking through the Titans book, I made some notes, and this is just my notes, and there might be. I'm not, although I like the art, I'm not. You know, I'm not a student of art, as it were. And I noticed that the very subtle differences between your styles, and I just wanted to touch on that, because I think a lot of our listeners will find that quite fascinating to hear your kind of take on it. And I've just made notes here, just looking at the full size pictures. So Boris, I noticed that a lot of your pieces had a smoothness to the characters and to the skin, and a tautness, I guess, to them, especially on the male characters. Very unwrinkled, bold colors, kind of quite a clean almost texture to the smoothness of the muscle, because there's strength in every single
Right.
form. But I noticed when I was looking through specifically yours, Julie, is that there's a lot more definition and detail in some of the pictures. In the sinew's the word I came on. It just seemed to me the most appropriate word. And then I started looking at those details wherever I came across them in some pictures. So, for example, there's a picture of Doctor Strange where a good half of the picture is his hands.
He was always one of my favorite characters, by the way. So yeah, I was really into that one. Yeah.
But it was just the detail of his hands. I just became mesmerized. I mean, I know there's Doctor Strange behind you, and he's doing this thing with the eye of Vishante, and it's all wonderful. But the hands.
Well, when I decided, you know, when I was going to do that character, first of all, I was like, yes, I get to do Doctor Strange. I love it. I just thought, all right, what am I going to do? And then I thought of the concept, and then, you know, I just thought, okay, I want to make this all about the hands. So I just really like allow myself to just really fall in love with what's happening in the hands, and really like, you have to just feel the love for the thing that you're going to be making the focus of attention in your painting or whatever. And, you know, I mean, they even use that term when I don't know, when I have been, Boris and I both would teach at the illustration masterclass every year. And I remember the woman who organized it, Rebecca LaVille Gay, she would say to students, you need, you know, like if there was a part of a painting that they needed to work on more, she'd say, you need to give a little more love to this. And I always thought such a great, I mean, I've heard, you know, other people say that, but she's the one that I learned those words from in applying it to that way of thinking about it. And it's such a great way to describe what it is that you have to do in order to really bring out what you want to say with that part of a painting, is think about it, loving it, you know, give it love, like actual love.
I made all these notes. I'm not going to go through them all, but the one thing that came up time and time again is that it's not in every piece, but there are some pieces, especially in the females that you drew, Julie, where the character is looking directly at you, the viewer. And it's interesting that in some of them, I've written down one of them, Silver Sable, is looking directly at the viewer, as if to say, "F you, come on then, come and,
That's
like,
basically the attitude.
yeah, but that's the thing. There is attitude, there is confidence there, in every single piece. But the one that contrasted for me, because I'm a my character Norrin is a big Silver Surfer fan. I'm a Black Cat is my kind of fan. But Spider-Man was the one I always grew up with. And there's the piece that you did, Julie, of in fact, I'll hold it up. I'm sure you know it because you created it. But this one, and I looked at that, and I kind of looked at it, and just the fact what you can only see one of his eyes, and I've just made some notes. I said, one eye visible, looks weary, perhaps a little anxious, but determined, almost resigned to his duty. I've just written captures his struggle, and it's just you just get that from that one eye that you're seeing, because he's like.
Yeah,
he's a little sweaty looking, I think, because that
I love that.
Hot, right? I don't know.
Yeah. I would think so. Well, it's funny that you brought up Silver Sable, because when you compare Silver Sable, which is the one Julie did, and then Crystal, which is the one you did, Boris, where it's where she's like holding like when you see both of you capture the personality of these characters, but then it's not like your styles are like totally different, because they are different. Like I recognize the Boris piece when I see it. I recognize the Bell piece when I see it. But when you put them side to side, they do have this beautiful complementary uniqueness to them, especially with two female characters like that doing that kind of disdain, that kind of focused and determined kind of look. Yeah, it's just such a great example, Ian. Those are great pieces. Really beautiful pieces.
One thing that I mean, even before I knew Boris, and especially when I think, like, in the meantime anyway, the way that he portrays women is also very powerful. He really doesn't portray women as brainless pretty girls that are just toys or something. And I really appreciate, not just appreciate, but I love it that he that's how he sees women. That's what he likes to see in a woman. He wants to see a woman's own power and strength, and then that's what comes across in the paintings.
Both of you have this storytelling component to the work. And when we spoke to Simone Bianchi, who is part of the Marvel Masterpiece 2018 set, who did the whole set similar to what you've both done for 96, we were talking about how each portrayal, every portrait of a character, every moment you capture in a frame of a character seemed to have this momentum of a story that was behind it.
Now the thing is that you approach the things also in different ways. You're talking about the Marvel masterpieces. It's not like all of a sudden we decided we are going to do that. They call us.
Yeah.
And we have this set that we want you to work at. And we have to really, really study each character. And then we work on sketches without the model. With rough sketches, rough pencil sketches. And based on those sketches, we decide who we're going to use as a model. And then start with that pose.
Wow.
From there.
Yeah, because sometimes, you do a sketch and then you get your model and then they do something that's 100 times better. And you're like, oh, okay, sorry, right. I didn't know that's where it was going. So and
it's
the
not
sketch
a simple
is just
thing.
It's like a springboard. So,
right.
Yeah.
It's not a simple thing. It becomes very complicated, very involved. But you get used to it.
Yeah. And I'm sure I'm sure it's very organic too.
It is organic. Yeah. You just learn to flow with it. And if you fight it, then you're losing something really precious. So
absolutely,
you learn to just not struggle that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting to me, because I was going to ask, it kind of relates to it. So when you're when you're called by Marvel to do that full set, because I know you'd done some work before for them, Julie, on some other sets, and then all of a sudden, you've got this 100 card set. I would imagine that's over 100 images because there's some inserts as well. So, what kind of process is that? I know when we referenced that we spoke to Simone, and he spent 15 months solidly working on 140 pieces, I believe it was.
You're right. I think it's 140.
And obviously he's different. There's two of you. So can you think back to how you approached that? I imagine it's standing at the base of a mountain thinking, okay, how am I going to get up there?
And you can't look at the top, you look right in front of you. And the thing is that they did divide the characters. They said, Boris, we would like you to do these, and Julie, we would like you to do these.
Oh,
so they were the ones who chose who did what.
Absolutely.
And some of them, they had us each do different versions of, different of the same character. So to make it interesting, I mean, I think it is interesting to see like how Boris would do, this one, so.
Yeah.
And then once we had our whole list, I think, I'm really not remembering how did we just like the basic, like you're saying, the start of it now. If somebody were to come to me with that now, the process of breaking it down and figuring out, okay, how am I going to start? Because you got to create some kind of system, and then you got to start somewhere. And don't, Boris actually did work pretty different from the way I did, because I'm somebody who is so insecure about not finishing on time and that kind of thing that I would be terrified and never sleep at night if I wasn't staying on my schedule. So from my own self-preservation, I have to keep up with what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But Boris has much easier conscience on that stuff. And so he really, I was really worried, like, how is he going to catch up? Because he didn't work on it for quite a while. He did some to begin with, and then he didn't work on it for a pretty good long time. And I was like, I don't know what he's going to do. I have no idea how he's going to finish this, and maybe I'll have to jump in and help him at the end or whatever. And all of a sudden, he just put them all out all at one time. It was just crazy, and they were fantastic.
Wow.
So it wasn't like he did shoddy work because it was fast. It was just
you would never. No, yeah, that's amazing.
Right.
You know yourself. You know what is that makes you work better. In fact, if I have too much time for something, I really, really don't think I do my best.
Yeah.
I think I think about it. I do work on the sketches and so on and so forth. I get it ready, and then when finally I start painting, then it moves.
It's ready.
All this
it's ready
time
to be born.
Really meditation, the whole process.
Right.
Thank you again for tuning in with us.
If you'd like to listen to the interview in its entirety, please find us on your favorite podcast channel or Google at the MCC Pod.
And remember to like, subscribe, and follow this channel for more information on Marvel trading cards.
Please comment below on artists and topics you'd like to see discussed on this channel and on our podcast.
Special thank you to our amazing and legendary guests, Julie Bell and Boris Vallejo, who were kind enough to appear on our show.
And until next time,
enjoy collecting, everybody.